Yeah. Okay, so this ready. I almost took off. So we're good? Recording? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I
So,
make a motion to approve the agenda.
all right, second,
Second.
anybody see any changes or anything? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of the April 20th minutes.
I'll move.
Brad. Second,
Second.
Sharon. Anyone see any changes? It looked pretty good. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. So we got 4 people here. Any public comment? Are you here for anything else?
I have a comment on the zone. Or do I wait for that?
On which one?
Zoning number 8.
Yes, you will wait. You can wait for the public hearing for that one. Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good? Guys are good. Okay. And I guess policy wise, we're not doing online ones now for any of the meetings, so. Cool. You're not have any other supervisors here. Just to note, Tracy's not here today. She's at the fairground. So if you guys didn't hear me say that, for a career day.
Oh, for career day.
Yeah, it was like 900 kids, so she's there now. So, all right. So number 6, we're gonna start out with our Lake District appointments. So Bob, you're gonna kind of run
Sure,
that, all right?
I believe in your packets. I think we placed 2 items in your packet. We just did a basic roles and responsibilities of those appointees to the Lake Districts, 2-year term. You act basically as a liaison, as an elected official between the unit of government and the Lake District. Most of our lake districts do, lake rehabilitation projects, lake planning, lake management. So that's the role. In your packet was the list of potential appointees that we've identified. I will point out that there is one error. Paul Frank, historically in the past, I believe represented Largon, but that's an error. So Paul Frank is not a candidate for District 1. That would fall under Supervisor Olson. Big Butternut falls within District 2, so that's Supervisor Rowdy. Bone Lake District, also under Supervisor District 2, Supervisor Rowdy. Big Round, Supervisor Rowdy, excuse me, Doug.
You take all those?
What was I do? Dan Rupp and take the next one.
So yeah, Big Blake,
Okay.
involves both District 2 and District 6. So that's Supervisor Rowdy and Supervisor Rock.
So now these other, if there's 3, like these people aren't here, we should probably do that at the board meeting then, huh?
You can.
Because otherwise Pipe is the only one with, we got 2 guys here. Pipe
Well,
and North Pipe. He goes to 1.
Well, I don't go down
Okay, so Doug's off.
there. I don't think Brad does either.
No, I mean, it's Pipes in Johnstown. isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
it's Tracy's district, but I know Tracy has said
she wants to
doesn't
be up, but
want it. I
Denise
mean,
thought she would go.
how many times do they meet a year?
What?
When?
Yesterday.
I'll
in the
take it.
summer. It's in the summer.
That's usually about,
July usually.
some of these might be over already.
I know Denise
Denise
is,
wanted a few of these, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as long as Pipe Lake only meets once a year, I would be willing to
If she doesn't
also
want it.
consider it.
Okay,
I just need to know when it is, so it doesn't conflict with my Largan Lake meeting.
sure.
Chairman O'Connell, can we get back to Balsam? Because that one is a little tricky too.
Ryan, did he want to do it or not?
Ryan and Dan Rock, their supervisor districts fall within the Balsam Lake District. However, evidently, the Lake District talk to the county administrator.
Dave Mariani has been the representative.
Okay,
All I got was an email from the president of the rehabilitation district. That is Tom Kelly, I believe is his name. And he just said, I understand Mr. Nelson's no longer on the board, so I'm writing you to let you know we would like Dave Mariani to continue as our Polk County representative. So the dilemma is, and I think in Mr. Nelson's case, he must have had a good relationship and they just communicated on county issues. So I don't know if it's a county representative on board or at this group, do you want it to be a supervisor or do you want to just let a citizen? It seems a little bit of contradiction of what they're getting out of it.
what we did before is because they tried to put me on there, but that would be a voting member. And that's what we thought was a conflict, because then I could come up to Balsam Lake and say, shit, yeah, raise that, tax everybody.
I have,
That was our feeling, that if they could tax and do that, the person that they want on it would better represent it than having one of us step in and actually vote on some of their things.
I agree 100% with what Kim said, because I mean, even though there's no voting on Largan Lake, I'll say for the most part, it's like, okay, it's in District 1, but I don't live on Largan Lake. I don't have a vested interest in what happens in Largan Lake. I mean, they vote for things and I'm sitting there going, absolutely, I would never vote for that, but I don't live on the lake. So, and I don't want to be the tiebreaker either. If it's a 3-2 vote, I don't want to be the third one for yes or no, because it's not really it's not my business. It's
Balsam's.
Do you have a
Wait.
preference?
Well, I would say I would leave Dave on there, and I would ask the other two what they think, but I don't think they'd want to do it, because I think they'd like somebody like that to do it. To come on somebody else's lake and vote yes, okay, want that treatment on there or something that's $3 million, yeah, you vote yes. Like Brad said, if you're the third guy that voted yes,
and they can
you
always
just tax 500 people, $500 a piece, that don't live in there.
they can always ask one of the county supervisors who is there to come and speak to them. If they
Yeah,
think there's something at the county that really needs to be addressed, or they can have that relationship and call and say what's going on at the county that we need to know about.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I've already met with Round Lake after redistricting and getting to know people. I already told them I won't vote on anything that's financial, because they're looking at doing the alum treatment and it's about $3 million. So I'll help them look into it with the county people, which I have already, but I just told them I don't vote.
So if you have a consensus, then we'll take that.
I think so. I think they go out with that one like that. Awesome. Then I think the Floyd, Church Pine, we can do those at the meeting there just before or something, and they can decide there. The Apple River Floyd's, Jay Luke or Denise kind of wanted that one. I think Johnny will stay on
I don't
Church
know
Pine.
about Chairman Luke. I caught him in the hallway.
He still wanted to be on it.
Uh,
He doesn't. He's pretty busy.
I mean, it sounds like you guys want to bring it to the full board and have them decide.
But
Well,
I
we
think,
can just ask them
yeah, I think,
at the board meeting, because they're not here. I don't want to say, okay, you have to do it, then they don't want to.
and Denise did send us a note that she would be
Interesting.
interested in that. Yeah.
So then we'd see if Dan wants that or a different one, because he's already got the other two. So maybe Denise would have a couple, so we could, and Jay's, he's the chairman too of Lincoln, so he's pretty busy.
Well, Dan's got 3. He's got
He's got those three, yeah.
Got Big
Long,
Lake,
White Ash.
Brown.
I think we should ask him at the meeting, because I think John will stay on the Church Pine one and stuff.
So for Apple River Flowage and Church Pine, Church Round Big, you're gonna have the county board figure that out?
Well, we'll just ask him ahead of time, because I know Jay won't go on it. Johnny's been on that one for quite a few years. He'll still want to be on it.
But I think what you're saying, Kim, is we don't want to appoint somebody who doesn't want it, but the other person does want it.
Yeah.
So let them make that decision, even if it's a phone call from the administrator beforehand to say,
Yeah,
are you interested in it?
Yeah, so we
know.
can do that when they're all there. You know, then they can say yes or no, but that, I don't think that would be too bad.
No, that's what kind of what we did last time.
Yeah,
Chairman just said, who wants this?
yeah,
And they,
but I mean, we got the ones for us that are here now. We hate, you know, like I said, I don't wanna say, John, you have to do it, or you have to do this one. Make it.
And anyway, when there's an option of two,
Yeah.
you know, if it's just, if you're the only one, you know, if it's your lake, so to speak, then
Well, that's what we did before, and then you can go find somebody. if you
Yeah.
want That on the way, do it, so. Okay.
can I ask real quickly, what do we decide about Big Lake?
Dan Rook, I thought.
Dan, Dan,
Yeah, big, yeah,
I
yeah,
think he said he wanted to do it.
He did say he would.
yeah.
So we're gonna check him and say, we'll discuss it at the meeting.
Yeah. He's got 3, 4, so that's why Apple River Flowage, he probably would need. But I think we can ask him then, and it'll go pretty easy that way.
Joe always Cedar. before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John did the other church behind the big round,
Yeah.
so. he'll take 2, yeah. Okay. So we're pretty good there, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir. You have 2 minutes. Can you do it? We got a public hearing. Okay, that's, I was
That
just,
clock is a little bit fast. Yeah. It's only 9:09 right now.
You have
Oh.
6, he's got 6.
oh gosh.
Sorry, I got a question, so make it in 3.
We diverted all our money to more playgrounds for this year.
Yes, just what I was hoping for.
And equipment,
Right.
and equipment, okay.
We do have a new landing going in the ramp at Magner between today and tomorrow. That should be done before opener. All the docks are in except for Little Butternut. We have a new dock that we have to assemble to get in there, a new aluminum one. The trails, we plan on blowing the leaves and grading the Stour and the Gandy prior to Memorial Weekend. And dams, Atlas, the Cedar Court has a May 10th kickoff meeting, and Clam Falls was last week, April 27th with airs, and they're working out the details of the timeline for the construction. I know Brad, you were at that meeting as well. That's all I have.
Okay, one question.
Yeah, I'm just, once again, I'm gonna wonder where we're at with sending the RFP for the Gandy out, because I think that, you know, if I mean, if need be, we can push it till later, but I think it just needs to get out and find out what it's gonna cost, and we can always say no if the cost is too high later, but it's in the budget, it's, you know, it's been approved, and I think we need to get moving forward on it.
Okay. Had several discussions on this. I'm requesting and I'm suggesting that we hold off until we hear the final May 28th, not the final, but a May 28th hearing. At that time, I'll make a decision based on what is transpiring or not transpiring with the judge if we move ahead.
What is that? How is it connected?
They're just legal ramifications and anticipating the blowback. It's, let's wait and see what happens with the Stour if we can. And rather than jump ahead and move ahead and have a decision come out and say, hey, we got to stop it. So we're just gonna be patient at this point. End of May, we'll have a next hearing. If it does not progress, then we'll probably look at, okay, let's just go ahead and pull the trigger.
Let's put it on the next agenda then, so we're ready to roll.
We probably won't have a second meeting, so it'd be the first.
No, but
meeting in
it'd be the
June.
first meeting in
So-
June, no matter what,
We-
because it's gonna be the 28th, you said. So it would be the first,
If he answers, and if he doesn't, then we
right,
pretend he didn't answer and move on.
right.
We can only put up with him so long.
Happy to hear your input.
I know. It's almost like the DNR. I mean, we just, every little baby step ends up, it took 3 years
Yeah.
to get it answered.
Good.
Good.
All right.
Thank you very much. It does bring us to Jason.
Morning.
take. Who's got the official clock, the clerk over there? I got 9:13. Really? So we gotta wait 2 minutes?
Up to you, you're the chair.
Well, we have to. Oh, yeah, it's at 9:15.
Yeah, you need to wait 2 minutes.
Yes,
Legal says. It
No,
wasn't Clam Falls legal.
No, I know. Open it. Anything else you got in a minute? No?
Yeah, I can take and do the surveyor memo.
Oh, yeah.
You guys received a copy
Yeah.
of that. We sent it out last week. I call it the surveyor memo. It really went to all title companies, real estate professionals. So it went to like Polk County Abstract, St. Clair County Abstract, Burnett County Abstract, just the people that are doing those easements and the surveyors that are creating those new lots. So we wanted to get out some correspondence on that. 2021 Act 174 had to deal with easements and the re-recording of an easement. So if you got an easement, the old law was that you had to re-record that easement every 40 years if you weren't using that easement. And of course, if you're using it, then that's basically like a re-recording every time that you're using that easement or that you're actually, contributing with that easement. So the new law says that if it was done and that after 1960, that you no longer have to re-record that in order to have that valid easement. So basically, there's a few other exemptions. I put that memo that we received right in there as well. So we don't see that a lot, but it's just those easements and that were granted way back when, and they're going to be continuing now as legal easements. So, any questions on that memo? Just wanted to provide it to you so that if you got any questions. I don't know how many we sent, quite a few, so.
Okay. Cool.
So now are we 15?
Yep, I got.
15, there we have it. All right, so then we'll get your recorder to it. Besides, okay, so we'll open up this public hearing. And you can start us out with your.
Okay, so this rezone, it's 915, is for Partner Properties LLC, is requesting a rezone from hamlet to mining located in section 21, town 33 north, range 16 west, town of Lincoln. Parcel number is 032-00535-1000, and it's roughly 17.37 acres. And Bob's got it up here on the GIS map where we've got the property. This is right by County Road H, north of Amory. We're about a quarter of a mile north of the city of Amory's limits, which are down here by the trailer park. Here's the gas station, Aero Building Center, some mini storages. So anyway, that's kind of what the area looks like. There is an existing 1 acre open sand pit right up here along the road. It is 1 acre at the current time. Underneath our ordinance, a borrow pit would be what we typically refer to this as. It can be up to 1 acre and open for up to 1 year, but then it has to be closed without going into mining. The applicant is seeking to go bigger than 1 acre and have it open for more than 1 year. So when they do that, that's where they need to rezone. And then they would also need to follow that up with a conditional use permit application. There's no navigable waters on the property and no floodplain on the property, but it is part of a large wetland complex on the east side here. So this area is all wetland, but all the mining activity is going to be kind of up at this front part. There's a big hill kind of right in the middle right there. That's where most of the sand removal would take place. So we have provided class 2 notice for the hearing, and we did receive town board minutes from their April 14th meeting, and I'll read their minutes that pertain to this. And that for the rezone from hamlet to mining, Scott Lee property on Highway 46, for this property to be temporarily rezoned to mining, there are certain conditions that will be set by the town, county, and state. The town will have input on the conditions. The town board compiled a list of conditions that will be filed in the clerk's office. Motion made by Ace, seconded by Jay, to to approve the rezoning of Scott Lee's property on the east side of Highway 46 to mining under the following conditions. And that they wanted to have a sunset clause, 6 years from the date of the rezone, reverting it back to the current zoning of Hamlet. And that the town will have input on the conditions of the conditional use permit. They're all in favor. That's exhibit 1. I believe the town is looking at this as the applicant has said that they would like to take and make this area into future housing down the road, but they've got this big hill to contend with. So the idea is to kind of level off the site for the new housing.
All right, so my question is, to protect the wetlands and stuff, do they need the whole 17 acres or can they do just half rezone or not? Or is that
would be a
not?
question for the applicant?
Okay,
Yep.
we'll ask them. All right.
Yep. Not know. So, yeah. The high point is probably about right in here, and then this does gradually taper off to the back. But underneath the non-metallic mining plan and that they would have to have, they will have to have the whole site internally drained. So
Okay.
any runoff from the pit itself has to be drained into the, so that is required.
Anything else, questions? Otherwise, we'll have the applicant.
I don't have
We
a
have some
question.
questions.
Okay,
Does
Sounds
he go
good.
first to
the
explain?
applicant can go first and that to explain.
Yes.
Yep.
Then if you have, yes, then if you have any questions or anything, we'll entertain those.
You say your name and your address,
Scott Lee, shop address. Or,
mailing address.
556 75th Street, Clear Lake.
Go ahead. Tell them what you want to do.
All I'm seeking is, like Jason said, there's a hill right here, and then it drops off considerably here. Back here, I'm not even gonna mess with this. I'm just gonna take this hill from here, basically off here, back into here, just remove the sand. I'm not gonna go deep. I'm not gonna make a pit there. It's just, it's a big hill, and it's all sand. So basically, take that hill off, and flatten it all out, and put the black back over it. And then farm it and then put houses on it. As I go across here, I'll put black back on it as I go, like the pit that's there now. I'll reclaim that, and then put black, and just as I work across the hill, just put black behind us. And so I reclaim it right away. Because there won't be no hole like you say a pit. It'll just be straight off or flat off.
So we have there'll be a reclamation plan. with
The
this.
reclamation plan and then any conditions, as far
So
as.
that'll be the CUP, so we're just looking at rezone, right?
Correct.
So then I just ask, how far back do you think you have to go? I mean, can we put a number so you don't get into the wetlands? People are worried about that.
Actually, on the permit, I put like 5 acres.
Oh,
That's
okay.
basically it. But we
5 acres open at any time, though.
Yeah,
right?
but I think the total thing is gonna be, because back here, Cheryl and I kind of went across here through a line and she did it. It was like 5 acres that hill. And so it's not, I'm not gonna be back in this wetland at all. So.
We
In the future, at the CUP hearing, you could
could set
get
that,
really
Yeah,
specific.
we could
Why don't
be
you say-
specific to that.
Establish a
Because if
wetland
we-
setback.
if we rezone the whole thing, I was just thinking that we wouldn't do the wetlands with rezone this, okay. All right, that sounds good then. Okay, anybody else questions?
So I just have
Oh,
a.
just a second,
I have a question.
just a
about-
minute, just a minute, just a minute. Any more questions? Now, you get to come up, state your name.
No, I have a question.
No, you come up, you don't ask him, you ask us. Yeah, because you don't get to debate with him. You have to come up
I
here.
just wanted to-
Well, you come up and ask the questions and then we'll ask.
What is
If that's
your
all right.
name and address, please?
Jeannie Minor, J-E-I-N-N-E. Okay, my question is, I understood like a mining pit, you'd be digging a hole. Now, if you're just moving dirt, why is there a mining rezoned mining? It's just a question for my clarification.
Okay,
So Hamlet, I'm understanding is residential. And he wants it rezoned to mining, which you can dig. Dig, remove, change the surface, all of that. Why would it go to mining if it's going to be residential eventually?
That's why the.
go ahead, Jason. I want Jason, the zoning will explain.
Okay, so the rezone and that is scheduled to revert back to Hamlet, which allows for single-family residential and small business commercial uses in 6 years. So in other words, this use doesn't really comply with the town's comprehensive plan, but they realize that the scale of the amount of material there that has to be removed, they're trying to give them in that 6 years to get that material out, and at that point, then it would go back into the existing zoning classifications. The reason why it's got to be rezoned is because it's bigger than an acre, and that they'd have open and mining use of a property is different than a residential use. In that, so this, by going through a rezone process, it gets the town's input, and then a conditional use permit doesn't usually involve, or they don't usually have as much input. They're just advisory. But the town of Lincoln in this case has said that they want to have input as far as the actual conditions on it. So this is the first step. Step number 2 could be establishing hours of operation, how much land they can have open at a time. We could do a setback to the wetland, all that kind of stuff, DOT access, tracking pad, anything like that. Those are all conditions that come for the conditional use.
And the town can be involved in that.
They have requested to be. Yep.
Yeah, when, so removal of a hill, I don't have any idea how you remove a hill, so. And I don't know how big the hill is. I haven't walked any of that property, it's not mine. But, I guess my concern is the dust and the noise and that type of stuff that's going to inhibit, the area, the wildlife. You say you'll stay on that side, but, what happens to the ecosystem? Any of that?
That's,
Just moving dirt from one part to another?
that's where the setback, but like the wetland would come in, the hours of operation
So then
and
that'll
that,
come
and
next.
that, so that, yep, and like having a tracking pad so that there's not mud being tracked out on Highway 46, that stuff, that would all come at the next step in this process. So I believe that that Scott's worked with the town, maybe establishing an elevation that they're going to keep and establish that being level. I believe it's the bottom of the road ditch and that or something like that.
They went 3 feet above the water table, but I won't be down there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have it flat.
So that can all be established. Yep. Does that help?
Okay. So just because it's a pit doesn't mean you go down a mining. I mean, he's just leveling a hill. I mean, it's like this, they're gonna level it so it's usable. But he's still moving that material, so, and it's over an acre.
So that means that you have to go to mining. Yeah, when I called in, I understood it was gonna be a gravel pit, so that's where I came
And
from.
Yeah,
And the mining and that also, when they're taking and hauling material off-site, that's called non-metallic mining. Whereas if they're just leveling stuff on the same property and to make a building pad or something of that nature, that's not considered a mine because they're not taking it off-site. So,
Going off-site.
Yep.
Yeah, the reason I am asking is because I have the 2 properties just east of you.
can you show us on the map where your properties are, please?
Here and here,
Okay.
so it would, depending on what's going on, greatly, totally affect us. And so that's why I wanted a good understanding of exactly what was gonna happen. And like I said, when I called in, I understood it was a gravel pit that was being set up. So that's where I was coming from.
I won't get past this hill right here. That's it, because it drops off too far back in here. So we just want to level this
It
hill out.
does, is is all water and
Yeah.
marsh, and that's why I really didn't know how much was gonna be
No, we're
disturbed.
just gonna be right out in here. Just take that from the road when you drive by here. You'll see, we're just gonna take that hill off. There. Then it drops off from about in here. It drops off pretty good back there.
It
We'll keep
does.
this all the drain right here.
And you're not intending on crushing or doing
No.
any washing, you
No
know,
washing,
that,
so I'm not gonna use no water, no nothing.
Bob, are you on the GIS? Can you put the elevations on there? I sure can. That'll just help us a little, we can kind of see the lines. All right,
Yeah, the other question I do have is why does it take 6 years? I'm just curious. Like I say, I've never hauled dirt.
just a second, yeah. Okay. Then, okay, the 6 years, okay, do you have any other questions then? Because then we'll relate it.
that's a condition and that's what the
That's a
town
condition.
and the applicant have worked out. And that as
Okay.
far as the time frame, usually in that a rezone is almost indefinitely. And that it goes to, you know, whenever there's a comprehensive rewrite, so that all the maps in the whole town are redone. So that could be 50 years. So this one here, the town, because it's not in line directly with their comprehensive plan, but housing and another commercial business is. And that they realized that we had to do the mine, we're gonna allow it for 6 years in order to get something that's a usable property for the growth. So being that it's right on the edge of the city limits, so.
Thank you.
Okay, that might help with the elevation lines on there for us too.
Yeah, so you can see on the map here, we got, you know, almost 1,100 feet here, 1,096. And as we're dropping, we're 1,074, 1,080 by the time we get back into the tree line. And so there's roughly 20 feet over there. So, and it also is dropping off to very similar, 1,180, and then up along the road. So,
If they set an elevation, that'll be on the CUP, then we can see with this map about where it ends up. All right,
so and the existing one right now is where this 1090, 1092 is, so.
okay. All right. Any other questions, anyone?
So will some of that dirt go into the existing pit? Or not?
It'll be leveled off, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
this-
leveled up.
Yep.
Okay,
You gotta put black dirt back.
yeah,
Yeah, then we'll push black dirt back over it. We'll still farm behind it. We're still gonna, I'm just gonna take so much and then have plant crops still. So there'll be crops in there this year again.
And that'll be part of his plan with the other office, the mining
Yeah.
plan, and the setback off the water and everything. So
Basically, it's a 6-year rezone in my right now.
Yeah. And can we do that? When we rezoned, can we do that? Put a limit on it?
Sunset clause, yeah, we can, because we'll be able to enforce it through our conditional use permit.
Okay, so then it's all right. Okay. I just wasn't sure if we could rezone for just a certain amount of time.
It's not typically advised in that, but since there is an end goal that's in line with the town's comprehensive plan and the county's comprehensive plan, I think it makes sense.
Makes sense to do it. Okay.
to do it. So basically, we're trying to make it so that it's kind of in compliance with our county ordinances in the meantime, and that to be able to get to that
Time
comprehensive plan.
To do his
and
business plan to
So-
use it up. Yeah, okay. All right.
Guess I was just curious, I don't know, it's not really pertinent, but is your plan for residential in the non-mining down the road after 6 years or whatever?
Yes, we want to put a road.
I know there, but clear back.
Yes, we want to put a road back in and then put houses back in here. And stuff, but it's so right now that it's, you'd have to move a lot of, so we want to put houses and make them.
Right, I mean, I'm not questioning the hill because I've driven by there over the years.
Right.
But I just meant clear to the right hand, which would be, I guess, to the east.
There'll be houses back. This is back here, so that, you know, you can't do nothing back there, so we'll block this off as one and put a house and then separate them, so they're not close. We don't want to, I'm not going to stack them, but I have acreage with them a little bit, so.
All right. Any other questions?
I do have some findings and conclusions draft.
Sure.
Okay, So just on our findings of fact, 17.37 acre parcel. It is close to the city of Amory. And I should make note that we did send a notice to the city as well, because they do have extraterritorial zoning authority on this request. The rezone is to take and operate a non-metallic sand pit. The parcel is accessed off of Highway 46. The mapped wetland on the east end of the parcel is there, but there's no floodplain or navigable waters. And the county provided a proper class 2 notice prior to this hearing. And did not receive any public comment on this request. But we would want to change that because we did receive in-person public comment now.
Okay.
So.
And the city didn't answer, didn't say anything?
Nope,
The city of Amory?
So
Okay.
I
so
can
we
add
got-
that in there too.
You put
So,
that in there, okay.
yep.
All
The
right.
city of Amory, and then we did
Yeah.
receive one public comment. Conclusions of law, changing the zoning of this property is supported by the town of Lincoln for a period of 6 years. At that time, the mining will revert back to the current zoning. There are several residential dwellings in the surrounding area, but the property is also very close to the commercial businesses of Amory. The applicant has stated he intends to put housing on the property after the site is leveled, and that was the purpose for the rezone. So the rezoning would then comply with the Polk County Comprehensive Plan and the existing and surrounding land uses, and will not have a negative impact on our public infrastructure because it's on a state highway. And then the town would want to have input on any conditions on the conditional use permit.
Okay.
We'll make those 2 modifications to the findings of fact, so.
Sure.
Go down. So on that basis, staff recommendations would be to approve the rezone request on condition that the property will revert back to the existing zoning designation after 6 years from the date of the rezone approval by the county board. And the applicant will work with the town of Lincoln to develop the conditions for the conditional use permit.
Okay. Any questions on those? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I don't know what the public notice for this hearing indicated about online public comment, but there is somebody who is online who wishes to make a comment. Did the public notice say they had to be in person for the public hearing?
We'll ask the clerk. What was it?
I
Was
don't
there an
do the-
extra?
I don't do the notices for the public hearing. I just do the agendas. Those
Okay.
are come from Jason. Our front cover for this says no public comment online, but that's for the public comment portion, not the public hearing.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, it was in person.
Oh, it's Supervisor, I'm gonna mispronounce her name.
Denise,
Yes.
just at least to her first name. And she has input on this particular,
Yes.
As a question.
she has a question? Well, let's hear it then. But no, it did say, it did,
We can do it. I mean, you have it on there for supervisor comments.
kind of revert back to supervisor comment, because otherwise it was in person, wasn't it, that we have?
I mean.
So we shouldn't really take it.
I think it's your discretion, but I would not include it as a part of the public hearing information. If she just has a question because she's learning about the process, that, I mean, if she were here in person, we
Okay,
would probably listen to her. It's your call, so, Mr. Chair.
so should I,
Close the
we would
public
have to close it first
Close the
then.
public
Hearing
hearing
and
and
then she can ask her question. She all right with that? Well, she's gotta be, because that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, so public hearing is.
So we'll close the public hearing. then. Because we have that. So that before, but we haven't did a motion yet, so then we can hear it anyway. Order again. All right, let's hear her question then.
Hello, Denise Lallier Prey. I'm at 216 Arch Street in Amory, Wisconsin. I just have a quick question about surveys. Who is responsible for resurveying the property once all the mining is complete? And that's it. That's all I have.
Any surveying would be the owner, would have to prove his lot lines and stuff, and they would resurvey for lots for houses.
Yep.
Would all be a CSM, would be a,
That includes elevation.
Okay,
Yep, and if we just determine an elevation for like the fifth floor, and that we would have the enforcement on that as well with our county surveyor. And that to make sure that they don't go deeper than that or to verify those elevations, so.
Thank you.
that was pretty simple. All right, so then I will entertain a motion for or against the rezone.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 6-year sunset clause.
Okay, and the town of Lincoln input,
Yeah.
it's almost like staff recommendation
Yeah,
on.
like the staff recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Any other questions of anyone? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That went good.
Thank you.
And Jason did his memo for the survey stuff. Okay. We are to land and water. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready, so we're actually gonna kind of break this up into two different parts as seen on the agenda. So I am Colton with the Polk County Land and Water Resources Department, for those of you that may not know me, I do see a few familiar, or a few faces and a few familiar. So the first part of it is I'm going to talk about our shoreline property handbook. So the Polk County Shoreline Property Handbook right here was originally produced in 2002. This was published by Polk County and done by the Land and Water Resources Department, other county staff, and all the designs were done by Karen Engel-Britson with KJE Design. There was a comprehensive update to the zoning regulations in 2000 when this was first published. And there was a need to show how important and fragile development of lakes were. And there was originally 5,000 copies produced. There's only a few that we know of that are that are still around. I know Bob has a couple and Caitlin in her office has this one. So in early fall last year or late summer, the Polk County Lakes and Rivers Association group and other lake organizations brought up a need with all the zoning changes that are going on to maybe redo this booklet, because in 2002 it's 20 years, a lot has changed, it's extremely out of date. There's still a lot of relevant information in this book, but quite a bit of it is out of date. And individuals are asking for a zoning kind of easier booklet to read than the Muni Code, which is pretty intensive and has everything in there. So with a lot of development occurring on lakes, the lake groups and associations and districts feel the need for having a resource they can hand out to their residents to let them know all the zoning laws before they start their construction projects or things. Working with Jason and Bob and Caitlin, we decided that we were going to update the handbook. So throughout the course of this winter, we have updated the Polk County Shoreline Property Owner Handbook to be more recent. You should all have this in your packet, the full booklet. Additions that were made to it include all the updated regulations. There's kind of all the setbacks and regarding lake access, boathouses, decks, patios, kind of the main questions the zoning office receives and our office receives are all in here and updated. It also references Muni Code, so it gives the link and how how you can find it, what it is, to show the more descriptive thing. This does contain all the correct and accurate information, but we did make a lot of it easier to read for the common person that might not know technical definitions for everything, and made it a little nice, easier wording to read. We also added all county zoning contacts, their information and questions for it. We added a nice table in there that has, if I have a question on septic, I contact the zoning department with the number. If I have a question on filling and dredging, I would contact Dan Harrington with DNR. So it gives all their information. We thought that was very important for the general questions. So if you have a question, you can refer to this chart. And has a lot of DNR contacts as well, because we get a lot of questions in our office in zoning that, a lot of times you get the call, it's like, okay, you do have to contact the DNR. That is not zoning. So that is all added in here. One other big addition to it that the other booklet did not have was, we've had a lot of questions and concern about identification of aquatic plants. So we added a whole section in the back. There's a couple pages of the common invasive species that we're wanting to keep out of our lakes. So there's zebra mussels, curly leaf pondweed, Eurasian water milfoil, yellow iris, and purple loosestrife. But however, we added the most common native plants you'll see in this area. We get a lot of phone calls. Hey, I think I have Eurasian water milfoil, and they're like, can we come check it out? But it's actually the native version. So we added that with a lookalike across from the invasive. So the invasives are in red and the natives are in blue. It says that, but made it a little easier and visually appealing for people to understand. And then it also shows the kind of key characteristics that you can tell the difference for. So with this, we are planning to do one large printing of it to be able to out. However, we did so with printing, the more you print, the less the price is. So we reached out to all the lake associations because there was a lot of support. We had a PICLAR meeting, and there was a lot of support for people wanting to actually purchase this for their lake. So we had Loveless Lake, King Lake, Clayton with which has Camilla Lake, Bone Lake, Apple River Flowage, Big Lake, Balsam and Wapo have all showed their interest that they've given us their number. Balsam Lake is looking to order 250 copies. So it'll be widely distributed throughout the county that way. Currently, right now, we have 1,050 copies that lakes are interested in purchasing. We do have it open for another 2 weeks before we will close and have that be our final number. Just a quick price. So if we have 1,000 copies, it's $2.33 a booklet. If we have 2,000 copies, it's $1.40 a booklet. If we have 3,000 copies, it's $1.09 a booklet. We do have funding. We are through our department and zoning. We are going to print some. We're not totally sure on the amount we are planning to print yet. Kind of depends on if we can get that, what the end price is, because if we can get that 3,000, we can buy basically two booklets for one. And these would be put out in the zoning office, in the land and water, as well as on wherever else it is applicable. So we just thought of something very cool that we worked on. Kayla and I, Jason, Bob, a bunch of people in our office and division have revised it. We spent a lot of time working on it. We just thought we'd show you the booklet that we put together. It's 36 pages. It's very comprehensive. Got a lot of information in there, but it is a very great resource for residents in Polk County. We also plan to put, this is also going to be an online document, so it'll be posted on our website. Not sure if it'll be on our website, so the Land and Waters. Not sure if it'll be zoning or where all it's going to be posted yet. And the plan is too, we've put in here that, zoning is an ever changing thing. So we will plan to do updates on the online version. So with that, if you guys did have any quick questions about it, otherwise we can move on to Caitlin.
So you think 3,000 is $1.09, and you got about 1,000 that people want already.
Yeah, 1,050 people have spoken for.
Not even all the lakes that are on there yet.
No, we sent this out maybe last Monday, I think we sent out, and we're planning to close it in 2 weeks. We kind of said, hey, this is the deadline. We are also planning on probably the end of next week if we do get more, we can kind of let people know the updated cost. And if we bump that up more, get to that next price point. Lakes may say, if everyone got 50 more, we'd be able to get twice the booklets for the same cost.
So maybe 4,000 would be just under $1 or something.
It could be, yep,
We have that many at least.
yep. So.
Sounds like the first 2,000 are gonna go pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, so, and kind of the intent was, we weren't planning to use county funding to print these and then hand them out to all these lake associations, because a lot of them have new homeowner packets where they put in just a few brochures and things. And this would be a great addition to their homeowner packet. So we were like, we don't want to be just handing out 100 to each lake. So that's why we reached out to the lakes to give them the opportunity to purchase their own, to put in their own homeowner packets and hand out at their annual meetings.
So all the districts, most of them meet in the first 3 months here, so that would maybe want some of these.
Bone and Round have already met.
Already met, see, yeah. They would be interested in these. would they?
Yep,
they
so-
have some-
So Bone Lakes already wants 150.
Okay,
We have not heard back from Big Ground. This is all the lakes that emailed us and let us know, like, this is how many copies we
Okay.
want. So
so some of the ones that are still gonna meet probably.
probably, hopefully, and we plan to do another reminder and then send out the kind of where we're at for price now and what we can fluctuate with for that.
So it went to the lake associations then too.
Yep, associations, districts, any contact we had, we sent out a mass email with the attached PDF of it, so they could actually look at it and see what they would be purchasing.
I'm just unclear on the date, because like Ward Lake Association meets Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if I had one in my hand to hold up to show what they can gain.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we can definitely,
We can do that, or I can explain it
Did you get a
online
packet?
too, but
You can print it.
Right.
Did
Did you get one of this in your-
I didn't have.
and that's one other thing we thought of, Lake Association, maybe that doesn't have a big budget or something. Maybe if they just wanted 5, they could just print them off on their computer in a booklet format. For that, just because, that'd be one option. The kind of the thing is with this, why we're trying to do one big printing is to get that price down, because we got a quote that if you were to do a digital printing, so if we wanted to just do, let's say we wanted to just get 100 copies for our lake next year, and you were to do a digital printing, it would be like just over $500 for 100 of them. So that was the original quote I had. Now with this kind of printing we're doing here, I can't remember the exact name. I know it's like more of a press printing. This is where it gets cheaper, but you also have to run a lot more copies to get the price down.
So 3,000, do you think it'd be $1 at 4? I mean, that
Yeah, I mean, I could get another quote from them. We got a quote from Frederick, the
later,
the leader in Frederick. And I just asked him, because I wasn't sure, we had a lot of interest at our Picklar, but we weren't sure, if that 5,000 some was practical. So I just had him give me a quote for 1, 2, and
love to, 3, maybe even 4, just to be safe. Because I mean, if these other ones all meet and they all want 100, 200, 2,000 are gone right away. But if they're under $1, I mean, that's a little easier to take,
Exactly.
And,
Yeah, and the thing is too, the reason we're trying to get this printing done earlier instead of at the end of the summer when everyone's had their meetings and can decide on this, is we want to, our goal was to have it all by this summer. So people around can know these zoning regulations and have a little more up-to-date information going into this year. So that was kind of our push to get it done by spring.
yeah, sooner the better, usually.
Yeah, so and there's definitely the possibility to do another printing, at the end of the year. But I'm not sure, and then we would definitely update, if anything changed, we'd update content. So, and like I said, this will be a kind of a living document online. Whenever there's a zoning change, we'll change it on the online version. And we did reference in here saying that, zoning regulations can change. Please always refer to Muni Code for the most updated regulations. Thank you very much. Appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah, thank you.
good. So I was going to give a quick update on the county lake grant that our department. And so this is a grant that we received last year from the Wisconsin DNR. It's a 3-year grant. So we started our data collection last year, and then we'll be collecting data this year and then next year. And the map is showing the project area for the grant, and that is the Balsam Lake watershed. In this watershed, we have 6 lakes. All the lakes are the white dots. I did the labels, the one side of the lake, so it's consistent. And then all of the tributaries or streams in the watershed are up there in orange, and there's 5 of those. So why do we pick the Balsam Lake watershed? You may remember from our land and water resource management plan, that was our top ranked watershed. So that was the obvious choice for starting to collect data in the county. And the go back one. So the goal of the grant is first to determine baseline conditions. So basically we're trying to collect data where there are gaps. So if there's already data, we're not collecting it as part of this grant. But to get a good baseline condition of the lakes and streams in the watershed. And then specifically, if we do come in and get our trim grant, when we're making improvements on the landscape, trying to reduce phosphorus, this will be our baseline data that we'll be able to use, maybe repeat the study after we've done work in the watershed to see if we're having a positive impact. And then also to determine priorities for protection efforts. And I'll talk about that in a later slide. So I was going to cover the stream data quick. We don't do as much data collection on our tributaries. Everything that I'm going to show on these next couple of slides is a DNR protocol. So it's not something that we just kind of came up with on our own. It's something that DNR suggests as a protocol. So for our streams, we're going to be out a total of 5 times a year for 2 different years. And that would mostly be May through September, but we will be collecting samples for total phosphorus, which is the nutrient most often responsible for algae blooms, and then total suspended solids, which gives us an idea of sediment load to those tributaries. We are collecting data for transparency, so just how clear the water is, and then temperature and dissolved oxygen data. The cool thing about this project is we are doing flow readings, which we've kind of always done. That's the picture on the top. So we put a tape across the stream, and every half foot or foot across, we get a depth and a flow reading, so we can figure out how much water is moving through the tributary. But what's cool is for this project, we're also installing hobo data loggers on those 5 tributaries, and that is collecting data every hour. So every hour for as long as they're out in the stream, we install them just as ice was starting to melt. So we got them out when it was still cold this spring. But basically we use this data together, the flow and what we get from the data loggers, and then we can get an annual water load and an annual phosphorus load from that stream. So the nice thing is the computer program does a lot of that math for us. So we just input the data and then it gives us a total phosphorus load. And then on the streams, we are also doing habitat assessments. So looking at bank erosion, looking at the inverts that. And then for our lakes, we are collecting a number of different parameters. So that's kind of the remaining slides of this presentation. But the big piece that we're doing is collecting that data that's required for impairment thresholds. So we do have a number of lakes in Polk County that are on the impaired waters list. And so the data we collect will be enough to determine if lakes would be an addition or a removal from that list. And then it also gives us an idea of the trophic state index for the lakes: oligotrophic, mesotrophic, eutrophic. And the data for that is total phosphorus, which I talked about on the last slide. Secchi depth, that's an indicator of water clarity. That's what these photos are showing. And then chlorophyll A, which is an indicator of algae. And so those 3, total phosphorus, Secchi depth, chlorophyll A, DNR requires 3 samples per year for 2 years. And they need to be between July 15th and September 15th. And that's what they would use for that impairment threshold designation. And then we're also, every time we're out there, we have a probe that gives us a whole slew of readings. The big ones, temperature, dissolved oxygen, it gives us things like pH as well. So we'll be collecting that on our lake also. If, and again, this is only if the lake doesn't already have that data. So Balsam Lake, they have all that data. We're not doing that for Balsam Lake. And same with a plant survey. So if a lake doesn't have a recent plant survey, we're doing a plant survey. We throw a rake at a bunch of points. So there's a different grid per each lake that DNR develops. The points are anywhere from 30 to 90 meters across. You go to every point, throw a rake, identify the species on the rake, and then give each species a rating of 1, 2, or 3. 3, obviously more plants. And the map up here is for Camilla Lake, and that's just showing the total rake fullness. So we identify every species and give every species a rating, but we also just for that whole rake. We throw the rake, doesn't matter what species are on it, would you give it a 1, 2, or 3? And that's what I showed on the map. So Camilla, every spot in red would have been a spot where we sampled and our rake was overflowing with plants. This lake has a lot of plants. And it's a very shallow lake, so that's part of that reason. Aquatic invasive species, we actually aren't needing to collect any data for aquatic invasive species for this grant because we have really comprehensive data already for those 6 lakes, but I did want to include it because it's something that we would have done if that data wasn't already there. But it's really similar to the plant survey where we're throwing rakes, we're doing a meander, and then we also do sample for tiny water fleas with a dredge and then zebra mussels. So these are our interns from last year doing the zebra mussel sampling. And then the last slide is the shoreline inventory. So any lake that doesn't have a recent shoreline inventory, we're also going out and doing that for the lakes. It does take a lot of office work because we actually are collecting a whole sheet of data for each parcel. And so the more work we can do in the office ahead of time to kind of figure out those parcel lengths and put our data sheets in order by parcel, the quicker the survey goes. But we'll meander the shoreline twice. The first time we're just looking at each parcel and determining what percent canopy cover. So if a raindrop falls, is it going to hit canopy or not? And then we're also categorizing that first 35 feet of shoreline, percent lawn, percent impervious, percent forest, that type of thing. So it's a really comprehensive survey. We're also identifying any really obvious runoff concerns. So if there's erosion, gullies, point sources, that would be something we would record. And then on our second round, we are looking for coarse woody habitat. So that's this was a DNR design protocol. So that survey is looking for, the second go around is looking at any trees that have fallen in the lake. Did those get left in the lake or not? And the map up here is just one of many maps we can get from the shoreline inventory. This is from Little Butternut, and all the parcels in green would, that first 35 feet is just 0 to 25% lawn, whereas kind of all those parcels in red are 76 to 95% lawn, that first 35. And so I talked about kind of prioritizing efforts. And so these shoreline inventories really would give us a spot to target. So if we want to work with the lake, they're wanting to do a program to promote healthy lakes or shoreline plantings, it would make the most sense to kind of start with those areas. I didn't even make a question slide. That's the last slide.
My question is, has the DNR changed any of the impairment numbers?
So it's
Like parts per million for phosphorus, have they changed that number so that it becomes impaired just because they changed the numbers?
I don't think they've changed the numbers recently.
They've left them at that certain level of each thing, and the TSSs and those are all.
Yeah,
It's
and
been a long time if it was changed.
yeah, I don't think
Been a while.
it's changed recently, not that I know of anyways. And it does matter depending on the lake type. So if it's like an impoundment, that might have a different, or if it's a seepage versus the drainage, or there's a
different level of
Yeah.
each one, okay. Or
So
if there's an
every
in
lake
and outlet,
isn't
okay.
40, some of them might be 35. So that might be what you're.
Yeah, that's
thinking
what,
of,
because I thought they changed it on the St. Croix for Lake Pepin. That they, Minnesota changed their numbers, so it made it all impaired.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure for Minnesota.
We're part of it, and they blame Polk County for all the phosphorus, that's why I'm asking. Because they said we're the worst for it, but if they change the numbers, if they change it from 40, now it's 35 or 20, of course it's gonna be impaired, because you can't, that's almost natural.
Right, yeah, as far as
can't
I
get
know, the impairment thresholds haven't changed.
Minnesota might have tightened it up, but it's
Wisconsin side.
And so, well, did they take it so they could blame us? I mean, everything we see is Polk County is putting the most phosphorus in the St. Croix, is what we hear all the time. So we're here to kind of gonna prove that we're not. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know that we're saying that. But yeah, I think Polk County is responsible for the highest load, but that would be more on a pounds per acre.
Yeah, and the Apple River watershed doesn't help us
At all.
because that's the highest loader according to the TMDL plan.
Okay.
But
That's why we're testing to find out.
well, this project's gonna set a good baseline for us to measure change after some big projects that we have coming up. You know, with that large scale trim grant, this is kind of the first step in collecting data to help measure change. We want to show that our work is making a difference, and through this sampling and data collection, we may be able to do that, or at least we'll have the information available to us to try and tease out positive change at the end of those projects.
Okay.
Which is a good segue to the next agenda.
Yes, okay. Which is, that would be you.
Well,
No.
unless you have more questions for Caitlin.
Well, don't we have the collect baseline on some undeveloped lakes?
This is actually Supervisor Olson's
Yes, question.
agenda item, yeah. Brad, do you want to introduce
Yeah,
that?
so there again, I'm sure milking cows one morning, the thought hit me. You know, we test all these lakes, but I just look at my area. I've got Dinger that sits in the middle of nowhere, and I've got Margaret that sits in the middle of nowhere. There's no inlets, there's no outlets. There's no agriculture, there's no humans, there's nothing. They're the same today as they were 500 years ago in the scheme of things. So the question to Bob and Eric was, you know, do we test these kind of lakes to see what the phosphorus level is in those? You know, we test Balsam, we hear about, you know, Apple River and that, but what is it in those lakes that are the exact same today as they were 100 years ago, 500 years ago? I mean, there's
Well, just to see
there's
what's
never
there.
anybody on Dinger, even though there is a fish in it, if you want to go there. And Margaret, it's completely, well, you gotta carry your boat a half mile if you want to get to there. You know, so there's gotta be others around the county, and it's like, you know, are we looking at those, pulling a water sample? And I'm not saying spend a whole bunch of money, but checking for phosphorus, checking for, you know, for the big things. And setting a baseline on those compared to what's in Balsam. What's in, you know, whatever other lake that's developed. And just looking at some of those. And so I don't, you know, good idea, bad idea. I don't, it was just a thought.
Couple things that come to mind, and I think it's a really good thought and a good approach, is that we would need to determine the lake type, because we would want to, Caitlin had mentioned, impoundments have different levels of phosphorus than drainage lakes or seepage lakes. So we would want to find a seepage lake that's undeveloped and compare those numbers with a seepage lake that's been developed. So we would want to go through and kind of plan that out and pick the lakes that are most similar to compare. Another thing that comes to mind is Caitlin's presentation was very good because she shared the parameters that we would sample for: phosphorus, chlorophyll A, and water clarity through Secchi disc readings and measurements. So, you know, those are, we had talked about what sample packages were. The nice thing about sampling for those parameters is they're relatively inexpensive, from my understanding. The biggest cost would be staff time, and our time to go out and do those. But we certainly are blessed with enough undeveloped lakes that we may be able to find a few out there if we can gain access to do something like this. So what I'm saying is it's feasible.
I would assume we would need to test the water quality of those seepage lakes or whatever lakes that we do decide to choose more than once, would be per season.
Yeah, I think we'd be looking, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would want to do spring turnover and fall.
Would kind of depend.
What
You know, I
would you
think for their, so we do some other work with DNR and that they just have us do July, August, September, but for over 2 years, be 6 samples. I think that's kind of the minimum.
It's something if we had interns, you know.
Get an accurate, baseline, have to do multiple
Yeah.
samplings per year. Correct, that's a role for our interns. Yet they're only with us, for two.
That we have to do the testing.
And I probably wouldn't send them out on their own to do
No,
something
you
like
wouldn't.
this.
Not on the-
You just don't want to be in the office. We know that one.
Yeah, we would.
We would want one of us to be with them.
We would be with them. Yeah.
Because they're remote.
They're interns.
But this would be good experience, and many of them are looking for a special project too, and this is one thing that comes to mind as a possible project for them. So there again, it would be feasible.
I like that idea. The only thing that would be different from 500 years ago is the rainwater coming down. That'd have changed things, because that brings stuff in too, but other than that.
Oh, we clear.
Yeah, I mean, like, 'cause-
We clear cut in Wisconsin 120 years ago.
What?
When we clear cut it.
Oh, yeah.
Wisconsin had a
20 years
major
ago,
impact
yeah.
on-
That's true too.
Yeah, even these undeveloped lakes have seen some impact over the course of time.
Yeah.
But their nutrient loading is different depending on their watershed, the size of it, and what type of lake they are, and the level of impact over the years. So
It's an interesting concept. We like it because we're interested. The value of that data, that's the question. Use it for comparison, or what do we do with that data?
We know posted pre-construction. If somebody wanted to build on it, you have to maintain it. If somebody builds or does
You'd have to
something.
buy it from the DNR.
I know. Yeah.
You're not building there.
But I mean, to me, when I and I pick on those two lakes, because I
Yeah.
know them both, but I mean, literally, it's just a hill.
A pothole. It's a glacier pothole.
Yeah, I mean, there's no inlets, there's no outlets, they're both spring fed. And it's, 100 yards around the lake is the only water that's coming in to those lakes.
yeah, and if all that's true, then it'd be likely a seepage lake. So then we would factor that in, and as Carol Connell said, those water quality indexes are different for seepage lakes versus others.
Yeah.
So therein lies the reason why we would want to try and compare apples to apples if this data is used as a comparison for seepage lakes. Or I'm sorry, for developed lakes.
Yeah, because once a river comes in, so there again, I'll pick on the Clam Falls flowage. I mean, there's 2 rivers coming into it and 1 leaving. So I mean, it's a huge watershed what gets there. So it's completely different than what happens locally to the flowage.
Yeah,
You
to
know.
a small one. Yeah.
Well, this is something like for us to pursue. I mean, the first step would be that inventory. Identify the lakes we could measure.
Yeah.
And I could also do like
Yeah.
a time study, see how much it might cost our department and staff time. Would you like to pursue that, or?
See if like an intern or somebody might have a project like that, if they would be interested. They would pursue it a little more.
Right, and then you guys are aware of the trim grant, the large
Yeah,
trim grant, so if
big
that
one.
comes and we get awarded that, this will impact, the ability to do that, the capacity. I don't know if we would have the capacity to do this as well as we'd like to do, but I don't think that's really been determined yet.
Well, if we did 1 or 2, just to find out.
I like the idea of putting together a time study and then at least trying to identify lakes that are similar, both on the developed and undeveloped side, that we may be able to access and provide information. That's a good start. We can put that together and report back.
And
Once we put back on
Yeah.
that, Jim?
hard one to get through.
Yeah, because that would be.
Staff.
Okay, yes.
Just a quick thing, so you're kind of wanting us to, pick the lakes, or would we want to start, looking more at those 2 lakes? Or
Oh,
just
no,
kind
I
of get
don't-
a
I just-
variety,
I
maybe
would
a
say-
I just
variety
picked those 2 lakes because I know where
Yeah.
they are and what they are. They're strictly examples.
Okay, yeah, so we
You know,
could,
and I mean, so I look at Dinger, it's, it's a mile from the end of the road, but at the same point with DNR help, you can drive to within 50 feet of it.
yeah,
So it is accessible
okay, so
to
you,
get there and not have to, Doug said 2, because that's in the middle of nowhere too, but staff would have to carry the boat about 1.5 miles.
yeah, so we can look at the lakes, that's kind of the only question I have is the accessing portion, and if it's, on private land, send out letters and stuff, but it might be difficult even if we do have a few lakes to get access.
Yeah, and as Doug just mentioned, I mean, Tula with DNR help, you can get to, or I mean, Margaret, you can get to Margaret too, and it isn't, I'll say quite as easy, but it's, it's still readily accessible to drive right to if DNR says, yeah, you can, pull the canoe back there with a 4-wheeler, right?
Put a short list of lakes together that could fit the bill for being undeveloped and accessible. So we'll start there and explore accessibility, and if they kind of meet the criteria that we think would make sense in a comparable study like this. So,
And then I guess my other question is, would it just be the water clarity, just the phosphorus sector chlorophyll, or kind of everything I presented
Probably everything.
is kind of
Makes
what,
sense to do
yeah,
it
like,
all.
would you want to do an EIS survey, a plant survey, shoreline inventory might, that'd be really easy, so I guess you can do
I
that
think if
really
you
quickly
just-
potentially, but.
Even a
Instead
small
of-
plant survey would be good.
I'm just into the thought, you worry about what you're gonna do.
The one thing we would probably end up doing before we pick the lakes is get that watershed boundary, just to make sure it's not as big as we thought it was, to make sure that, maybe there's a bunch of ag over the hill that actually does make its way there. So if there's something, so we would definitely look into that as well.
And Tula, right, Doug? No way I get into Tula.
We have to get them one of them rafts that you just. You put it on your backpack and you pull it, it opens up, you can just backpack your boat in.
Yeah, that's the thing, because for us, like when we do antler, it's quick, like we back in, we go to the deep hole, takes 15, 20 minutes, we buzz back, done. But if it's where we have had some leaks where we do have to walk a ways or use the canoe, and
Use,
that's the longer.
Your equipment you gotta carry up.
Yeah.
So, okay.
You would estimate.
Both options, the chlorophyll, phosphorus and second.
That's
I think that'd be like the bare minimum.
At least the bare minimum. yeah.
Maximum.
The full county lake grant parameters would be a long study.
The 2 things, if we measured those, would be able to tell if it's in here. We would be able to figure out like, okay, even our undeveloped lakes is impaired, or it's like, it's definitely not
Yeah,
impaired.
that's,
it's
I
undeveloped.
think what would be nice to know, what those parameters
Let's talk offline. We'll figure out what the goals and objectives are, what it is we can do, what is worthwhile. And then come back with a strategy.
are. Okay, sounds good, yes. Good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Go ahead, yeah. Your checkbook. $100 bill. Yeah.
Well, I have a brief, I know Rod was here, I could just talk about a little bit on each of the 13 projects within the comprehensive trail network plan. The ATV, UTV intensive park. That bid is still out there. It closes May 20th. We will open the bids on May 24th. We have had interest. So we
Okay,
have been
so we did, yeah.
communicating with 2 consultants. The ATV loop in Sterling, the grant was submitted to reimburse us for the work out there. I was out there 2 weeks ago, 75% of the brushing was done. Just talked to Mo yesterday. 100% is done. The dozer was out there last week. So I think there's some stumping and grading to do, but they're coming on, they're working on that now. So that's all I know.
That one, I was at the public works meeting yesterday, and I think they said the club is gonna do a lot of work up there.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, as far as cleaning up and it
That
sounded
and-
like they were doing a lot.
Well, I was just gonna fill in because I was with the club an hour before. And Mo's gonna buy the signs and the posts, the clubs are gonna put them up. And they're also gonna do the grading and taking the stubble off, clearing the trail. And they're gonna do the canopy,
They're gonna do the canopy.
so
Yeah.
they're
How about
gonna
the
finish.
campground too? I wasn't able to touch.
It's supposed to be ready in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Paragon's gonna come in and do gravel.
Yeah.
But that's been grubbed out already, so we gotta order a couple fire rings and a picnic table out there.
Yeah, they're gonna have one picnic table for two picnic tables for two, but one fire pit. for
One
two.
fire pit to be shared with two of the pole ends, so they'll be sharing a fire ring. And then, yeah, picnic tables.
It sounds like it's gonna be really nice when it's done.
They're also,
Rustic.
the
Well,
sign,
yeah.
the sign out there, excuse me, I didn't mean. The sign for the original loop says June 1st, but Mo's gonna change everything so it starts the Friday before Memorial Day, so they're open for the campground. And see how that works.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to the signage plan. Ben and Tim put together a signage plan. We're meeting with our public information officer to work with her on consistency of not only our trail signage, but also way signage and kiosks. We have a couple of kiosks in mind. For example, like on Sterling, we plan to put one up there. Of course, the Woolly parking lot. So what we've done is come up with content and color scheme. We want to run it by the PIO because she would provide some feedback on uniformity and colors. So
One more question that came up actually yesterday, this morning. My wife was asking about promoting. Will she work on some of that with the tourism and that? And
yeah, that's a good question. That's been raised before. I mean, ultimately, that's the next step, right? If we're putting in all these recreational assets and we need to market them, who will do that?
Who you said?
Yeah.
Well, county tourism, we give them thousands of
We're
dollars.
looking at a variety of things. But you're right. Remember what the board did this past year is we recommend, for example, tourism, EDC, museum intermingle, so to speak, in terms of board membership. And I know that the EDC is on board with helping with their website. We'll do it with ours. We're going to look at ways to market our trails. Trails don't pay for themselves. We put a lot of money into them. So the question is how do we get a benefit to the county taxpayer? That's where you get visitors to come visit, and then they're done with the trail. They go into Luck and they have lunch or dinner and spend money at Jensen's, that type of thing. So that's what we're going to try and look at avenues to do.
And ultimately, we'll need to operate and maintain them as well. We're building all these. We need to maintain them.
So we're not that deep in the hole coming back. We can park.
DD Kennedy Allgreen hiking connection. Did not get an easement from the private landowner, so we're going to work with the town of Garfield. This project, this is that hiking connection connecting Allgreen and DD Kennedy. We're going to have to work with the town of Garfield on the north side, 120th there, widen the shoulder to provide a pedestrian path. They're looking at replacing that culvert next year, the town is, so naturally they'll have to get a wider one. That project might not happen this year. DD Kennedy for the cross country skiing, No real developments there. We still haven't really looked at any type of new bathroom design. We'll get there. We plan to do a 3-sided warming hut and then replace the bathrooms in DD Canyon. I will tell you that most team and our team were meeting monthly going forward throughout the rest of the year. I think last time I was here, I talked about our project management schedule. It's our tool to use for just keeping on task. So we're going to be meeting with them regularly, make sure that we're on task. We can help out where we can, and where things, just a simple way to update each other. The Gandy parking lot for the bathrooms, it's on the general government agenda for May 12th. They decided not to go with a huff cut. They're going to build a stick-built structure, 20 by 40. I do have the new layout, so I'll share this with general government. And as you know, we have intergovernmental cooperative agreement with the city that ensures both parties will do what we say we will do. I know in that intergovernmental agreement.
Which one is that? At Sacred Falls?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it's gonna be 2 bathrooms, a bike repair station, they're realigning the trail across 35, they're expanding the parking lot to the west. They're improving the signage and wayfinding. Middletown Gandy parking lots. I'm sorry.
To the
You
east.
meant
they're going.
expand the parking lot east. right?
West is 35.
West
yeah.
is 35.
Nope, the west. There's
Oh, they're
that
gonna go
path
farther out
there.
that way too?
Yeah.
You know, the path that runs parallel to 35, that's all gonna be black.
Oh.
A little green space, there's a mailbox there. All
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
They're pushing that parking lot to the west. Middletown Gandy parking lot, Tim and I are going to the village board meeting May 9th. There's one person that's objecting to it. The Woodley Dam parking
In
lot.
Milltown. Is that Mr. Nelson?
Well, you know, we can always take it to another town. Another municipality.
Yeah.
We go to Lock River. We start with
Sure.
North. Sir?
So let's not get hasty, come on.
So I don't think it's gonna be a problem. So we're just gonna inform and listen to the village board and hopefully accommodate them. The Woodley Dam parking lot, Steve surveyed the north and west survey fence line, because we're putting a fence to segregate the parking lot from the hotel. Steve put some pins out there, that way Mo can purchase the fence. The design's done, as you guys know. The permits have all been pulled. DOT is all copacetic. According to Mo, this will be put in later this summer. It's going to sort of overlap because of mobilization costs of road project.
See, they use it as a ride share right now. I've been by it a few times. There's
Yeah.
people parking there going
We got to get a couple cars off county.
Yeah.
property.
off the
Yeah.
property, yeah. But they still, some people park their ride share, I see.
Probably.
Like 4 the other day, and then I see them dropping each other off.
So that entrance then gets closed on
Around
on
the
the
corner.
bay and you go around, do you go in
Down
front of the
H.
hotel or down
H.
H and then in?
Round,
North of the hotel. off the
Yeah.
edge there is the
And then,
entrance.
so some signage there. And that you're riding share too, though.
Yeah, it's a parking lot.
It's parking lot. No, but I mean, even
There'll be
advertise
less
it so they're
people
not
that
afraid.
up there. So they-
Yeah.
Rivers Hill, they close that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wanderers lots, I think most plan to do that this summer. The 3 trail projects for on county lands for equestrians, cross-country skiers and bikers. We have a meeting scheduled, so we actually found all the stakeholders. We're gonna get together May 23rd, probably in this room, evening meeting. And we'll have a group process, planning process, and then June 7th or 13th, we'll actually be out on site to identify where those new trails will go. And then Vince kind of updated you on the RFP for the feasibility study for the Gandy. That's all I got.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm just going to back up to Sterling.
Mhm.
Ben told us yesterday that he did a count and there's 270 signs that have to go up. And also that he's making a map for installation.
Yeah, so that's part of the signage plan. Thanks for bringing that up, Doug, because not only are we looking at waste signage, but we're also looking, doing an inventory where all these signs need to go. So this wasn't really a budgeted item, but it is within the project. So hopefully we have a balance within each of the projects, and so we'll be able to implement that. I think we will. So yeah, we're not only looking at a lot of projects this year, a lot. In addition to remodel, there's a lot going on. And so we're gonna try our best to get most of these done this year. But hopefully, if we can't get to all of them, we'll try. Hopefully, we can have this conversation during budget process. Maybe move some of these things next year, but we're gonna try to get most of them. So that's about all I know. It is a challenge because, we're several departments kind of work together, but we work together.
But they're making good progress, which is
Mhm.
nice to see.
We don't normally build things like this, so it's kind of a learning curve for us, but we're doing really well.
Okay. All right, let's jump to the fee schedules.
Yeah, spent some time looking at some comps. St. Croix County is probably the most comparable. I will say the last time we raised the ones that are highlighted was 2019. Last year, first played with the signs, remember that? We brought down the for-profit and then we increased the nonprofit. I think last year we also did the in-ground permits. We raised those $50. And then the communication times we raised last year too. So it's been a few years. Again, looking at all our neighboring counties, where this is comparable to St. Croix. St. Croix, all their land use permits have one fee, $650. So, but just to be transparent, our fees are a little bit more than a Barron and Washburn, but comparable to Burnett's and Douglas. Looking at the cost of doing business and looking back at the CPI since 2019, the cost of doing business has increased 9.7%. So that's my pitch.
Okay,
We
then,
can keep them the way they are, but I'm just trying to keep up with the cost of doing business and the cost of our time in processing and administrating these permits.
so land and waters didn't change.
No, sir.
Okay, and then Sally's didn't change.
No.
Okay,
So
so just,
land and waters went up CPI. They do that every year. So that's
Yeah.
2.9%.
Yep.
Forgive me.
that was the
That's
first.
been
in
their
ours,
historical practice. So they go.
Yep.
Last year was 2.9%. And then land information is, Sally, you're right.
that's Sally's,
Zero.
zero.
Yeah.
And then, so we're just dealing most,
Was land information is probably the most
this
impactful.
is the biggest one, the land use permit stuff. The address, okay, went up. Yeah. And then that easement,
We're striking that one because, we catch those new addresses when you get a sanitary.
oh, yes, I know. that.
So why even have that? We're striking the Wisconsin Fund application. That's that subsidy program for low or moderate low income to get septic. That's going, that's been sunsetted at the state level. And then the easement review fee, that's a new fee, and that's a product of our recent work with Brian Winger and your work on.
Just what he just sent out to that easement stuff, so we had to put a line
So
item for it.
when
Okay.
those easements come, we have to review them.
Sure. Any questions on any of those? We can go, because he's starts his budget line. Did you receive these? Yeah.
than that, we try to just not change our fees so much because there's so much, contractors and stuff. It's kind of, they get it in their head, this is the permit fee for that. So instead of doing a yearly increase in that, we try to take and wait a few years and then make a bigger increase just so that we have more steady fees, so.
That's pretty common in all our neighboring counties too. They'll do a mass increase every 4 years or something.
Yeah.
These have been our fees for the last few years. Granted, as you know, this will be effective,
Immediately.
no, 2023, not immediately.
For the budget for next year. What does everybody think?
I don't think we should raise the fees at all.
They should be double.
I think they should stay where they are. So I'm gonna go back to what Sarah McCurdy told me several years ago, is that at that point, my department is the only department in the county who's expected to pay for itself. In the scheme of things, and when somebody walks in and when you go in and pull a sewer permit for Clam Falls, and you won't stop when I tell you to. But the county's gonna make money off of that sewer permit. Now, maybe we lose money because we don't get all of Jason's time, but those individuals putting up a house, they're gonna pay the county more money, they're gonna pay the Frederick School District more money, the town of Clam Falls money, and we're making money off of that. And I think I'm just against raising the fees. I mean, I think it's just something that in the long run, we're making money. We're not seeing it come in through a department. We're seeing it come in through property taxes. And I just don't, I think our fees are high enough. I mean, yeah, I'm not disagreeing we're comparable or maybe lower than other counties, but I think somebody wants to build, add on and raise their taxes. And then we're charging them more for that fee to put in a sewer, to build the house, to do whatever it is. And so I think it's one of those things, I think it's offset to me.
So when we come in the red a little bit, end of the year, we're in the red. We'll support extra levy dollars to make up that difference for our department.
I'm fine with that. There's a lot of departments in the county that are in the red.
We haven't been, but the county's been pretty active.
And now some
Yeah,
like,
you're asking for a fundamental change in how the government operates, and so are you suggesting we eliminate these fees altogether?
Oh, no.
Then,
No, I'm saying, if I'm sitting in another committee somewhere, one of the other three committees, how many of them talk about a fee schedule so that when somebody comes in for something, they're paying for it? Because most of the time that's coming out of the general fund. If I'm walking in to see somebody, I'm not footing the bill for that.
Well, if you think about the clerk of court's office, they have all of their fees for everything. If you think about human services, all of the fees in the billing.
highway,
Right, highway is charging all of the municipalities. It's
right away.
a lot of the departments do, but I understand this particular department, you're creating real estate that is increasing arguably the income for the county through property.
Yeah, I'm
taxes.
not saying I'm gonna win the vote or anything. I'm just.
You're not. So you're beating it dead horse, but you can keep going.
I have lost a vote on playground equipment.
you're prepared every year.
Yeah.
Equipment.
Well, this is more of a, I think as a user, doesn't, why should you pay extra because I put a sewer in? Why should you pay for that guy to come out and have Jason come out with his sewer, not yours? Because he'd condemn yours and I'd have to go to your house and fix it, wouldn't I?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking at it from a different thing. I think there's.
You're looking at it in a different way. I'm saying it's just the people using it are gonna pay up front. And the tax we get, say on that cabin that we did, his taxes would be like 400 to us, so it'd take us how many years to, they split it all up.
Yeah.
This actually keeps taxes down for everybody. and just the user pays is how I look at it.
Wow.
If you put it to zero, for example, the folks in Clam Falls would have to pay higher property tax.
Yeah.
For Farmington's sewers. So
Yeah.
now this way,
Yeah.
just whoever's putting the sewer in, you pay for that, good. And I'm not gonna raise your taxes.
And I'm
to pay
not, I'm
for it.
not disagreeing with your point of view. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, that's what I assume. Did you-
That was a long circle, isn't it?
It's kind of like I gotta buy a fire dump because I'm the only person that gets a permit, so it goes on my bill.
Yeah, I just think we're double dipping for the most part.
No, we're breaking, because actually the sewer ones, how much goes to the state? First 100 and some?
$100.
And then.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
For groundwater surcharge fee. And we
Yeah, I know.
try, we try to keep them round numbers too. So yeah, some of these are about more than the CPI, but rather than, $157.38, and that we try to make them round and then it's going for 4 years, on it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, for a $50 house increase fee and that, in my time here at the county, I've seen house values and that actually coming in triple. So anyway, so yeah. There, and I've never had anybody balk at $400 for a house fee. But you'll see there's 2 fees there that we kept the same, and that's to try to, still get people to come in and pull permits. If they're landscaping or removing a tree, they don't want to pay more than $50 for it. That one we hear about. And that if we're a nonprofit, if we're a church and we're putting up a sign and that, they don't want to pay any more than $75. So that's why we kind of left them the same so that we still get those permits. But people building a shed and that, no, it doesn't matter. $175 today, it's 10 2x4s,
Yeah.
so anyway, so.
Quite a comparison.
Yeah, it is, because it's that bad. You
Yeah.
can't even frame a door.
Number is that bad.
We don't need a motion, do we, for this? We need a consensus. Tracy's not here.
Could a couple of you leave?
So for the administrator's budget, by consensus, what are we thinking? We're gonna raise these?
How many permits on an average year do we have in these categories?
Oh, that's tough.
That's tough.
So a total about 1,150, and that total land use permits alone. We're not touching sanitary, but was 450 last year. New houses in that, I think last year we did almost 150, 156 new homes. The bulk of them that are left are in the dwellings, and that add-ons and accessory building category. So that dwelling addition greater than 144 square feet, that $300 fee is a common one, or that $275 now, and then the accessory building over 144 for the $200. Those in our house fees and that, and then just our general landscaping, which should be the same, so.
There's quite a few. So to answer your question, I haven't ever tried changing the fees.
Okay, sure.
I too.
Brad,
Just blame it on COVID.
Tracy, yeah, I don't even have to vote. All right, by consensus, that all gets raised.
Thank you.
Could have just not put playground equipment and had enough money to not raise.
Oh, Amanda's gonna make us some money right now. She's keeping us from having to borrow it all, so. How is this list going?
It's going very well. We started out with 50-some properties that went over to the Corp Counsel's office and to court. We've had 39.66 paid off so far. We're down, I think, 35 properties, and I think it's about 25 individual taxpayers. We did not do any action last year, and the year before we canceled it due to the COVID situation that was going on. So I think we're doing really well, considering that it's been two years pretty much since we've done any tax foreclosures. They have until May 27th to meet, that's last Friday in May, to make any payment arrangements. We usually wait another week for anything that was in the mail. It took a little time to get here, et cetera. Before we send it back over to the county or the Corp Counsel's office, and then they go back to court. Those properties are then put in county's name, and then they have a 45-day payoff period. Now, there are some changes that have happened in the last 2 months. One of them is Senate Bill 829, was passed by the legislature and then was signed by the governor, and that changes the payout on tax foreclosed properties. So basically, what it does is instead of only having to pay property tax, or only having to pay the sales, the difference, the net proceeds from the sale, if they signed a form within a certain amount of days, and if it was a homestead property, now it does not need to be a homestead property, and they don't need to sign the form. My understanding is until they make a claim on it, and if I understand correctly, they may have 5 years. So we may have to hold at least the amount of the profit in some sort of, account, trust account, or at least in some sort of books on the county side. So if they come back, I'm going to send that information to Malia. I talked about it with Vince just at my monthly meeting or whatever it was. So far, there's been no counties that have had to deal with this because it was just signed, I think, in March by the governor. We're all hoping some other county gets to deal with it first. And there's quite a few of us that are coming up in May and June. And I think one might have been in April where they had their deadline. So I know that they were talking with WCA. WCA did go on record opposing this bill. The Wisconsin County Treasurers Association did not. We felt that as it affects our job, but it isn't a direct relation to our job, we shouldn't have an opinion on it. That was the general decision by the 72 counties. Again, it was signed. The concern was that it makes it, and it also changed something about paying off lien holders also. So there's a lot of little new changes with this. The biggest change I can see is that we do have the resolution that says after end of the budget year, anything over 100,000 that's in our profit goes to pay off debt. I don't know if they will have to make a change on that sometime this year because of the fact that any net profit, they can come back up to, I think, 5 years. So those are things that we're going to have to look at. WCA was going to, I think it was WCA was going to either release some sort of best practices or advisory type of email, or it was going to be requested from the Wisconsin Attorney General's office to do some sort of recommendations or best practices on the bill, because it affects almost all the counties in some way or another.
Well, yeah, to hold it back now 5 years, that's terrible. We have to keep that.
See,
back.
that's
what put us in the hole before we got so far behind.
Well, and that's what happened that's why a lot of counties do in REM as opposed to the tax deed process, because the tax deed, you have to hold it so many years before you can, I think, even sell it. Whereas now we can sell it, but we have to hold the profits. So that's where the difference comes in. I don't know if it's just properties with improvements. There's a lot we just don't know yet. It depends on how exactly the bill was worded, et cetera, and what legal recommendations are made. So
Keeping nightmares.
Yeah.
yes.
That's just
So
So what was the Senate bill number?
829.
829.
yeah, 829.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read some of that. It's just bizarre.
Yes.
And there's a
Wrapped it up.
presentation on it I'm leaving later today to go to the Corp Council Spring Forum Conference, and this is one of the topics. So Andy Phillips will be presenting.
It's
Like I said, it'll affect almost all the counties. Some are only do tax deed, not the in rem, and they already do something similar to this. But even those that do in tax deed, a lot of them do in rem for properties with homes on them, or buildings anyways, so that they can have the court order and they can sell them immediately.
so it said 5 years, it'd be dilapidated, they'd be
Well,
worthless.
and see, the difference is you can sell, you just have to keep the proceeds, I think. Again, there's
But
a
they can
lot
come
of,
back and get that in 5 years. The person could lose it, come back in the 4th year
and
and
say,
say it's mine and here's $50, get my house back and you maintained it for that 4
No, they would say, you sold it for 80,000 and you only had 20,000 in costs, so there's 60,000 in profit. I want the profit.
I want the money, and they have 5 years.
Yeah,
And they get the
That's my
profit.
understanding.
That's the way I kind of
And
read
they
it
don't have
too.
to
Do anything.
do it. I mean,
Right.
It's bizarre. how-
It
if
would
you
pay
read it.
off their back then.
they don't have to pay for that taxes.
Oh,
No, it would.
Well, that would be included in the 25 cost.
That's all there, whatever they have.
But I mean, this isn't a matter of if they'll come back and get it.
They will.
If the county sells my property and makes a profit, why wouldn't I go to the county and get it? I mean, that's
Yeah,
a no-brainer. You know,
but they get to walk away and wait, and if we have to get somebody that wants it, we have to deal with it. We had to borrow the
We just
money.
paid their realtor fee.
And pay all that other stuff.
Well, and that was one of the concerns,
Yeah.
that makes the county more of a realtor, especially when you look at the lien holders, there's some.
But then to be able
provisions
to-
in there for other lien holders also.
Anything we deal with, we gotta sit and wait every 5 years. Holy man, that's a lot of.
Yeah.
You know, even though we're down to like, what'd you say, maybe 25 right
Right,
now. Right in there.
35 properties, 25 taxpayers,
Okay,
there's some that are multiple.
and that's a 2-year deal, so our 15, 16 is about average again. We got it down to, isn't it,
Right.
from before?
Yep,
Were we
yeah.
down to that?
Yep.
Okay, we were down to the 15, 16.
right, that's,
Sure.
when we expect, some of these people come in and pay towards the very end. Every year we talk to them about, maybe making a payment plan and stuff, but some people just don't have the ability or the funds to do that. We have a couple, we have one that's 5 properties in the village of Osceola where they were bought lots that had been on tax sale. And they haven't paid anything since then, so we don't know if they didn't understand what they were buying or thought it was something different or whatever, but so we expect those to go back.
Yeah.
And so, and kind of in response to your question or your comment earlier, we are down to a balance of 64,000 in the tax deed holding account, and that is the properties that we currently own that have taxes. That's the tax amount on them. And to give you an idea, in 2021, it started out as 344,000. So it was selling, I think, of those St. Croix Falls lots and stuff that really helped with that.
Help
Yeah.
keep it down.
And most of those are small parcels. So we're doing good. I think it was up to 500,000 or 600,000 at one time. But I don't know that it's ever been down as low as 64 since I've started. And I've been here 19 years now, so,
So it's dropped quite a ways.
yeah. So we're getting closer.
Okay. Well, until that, tell Malik there's a bunch we can do.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that.
And it's May. We give them 45 extra days. Now it's
Yeah.
5 years, right? So I tried to get it to 0. Now it's years. That's terrible.
Well, I know it'll be a bookkeeping thing and. so we'll have to
Oh,
work
gosh,
with
yes.
Bob and his department and figure out exactly how it's gonna work out, and probably with Chad and finance and figure it out too.
Sure.
So,
So our meeting in June, we'll probably get a little update on
yeah,
this.
we'll know,
We'll have something.
anyways,
We'll
we'll
know.
know for sure how many parcels we'll put in the counties, or will be put in the county's name, depending on how early in June we meet.
Yeah, I think what's the first meeting in June 1st?
So it probably won't be then that we'll know necessarily. I mean, we'll have a pretty good
A
idea.
rough idea at least. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would, just for an update. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
5-minute update. Maybe something from Malia.
Maybe, yeah, it's that bizarre. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So we probably don't need a second meeting this month, do we?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Scott Lee will be here for his conditional use permit on June 1st. We'll have an update on the RFP, the feasibility study on the Gandy. That is after the next hearing.
Yeah.
Amanda's update, but in terms of 2 weeks from now, don't have a lot of content. This is an opportunity to skip a meeting and where I'd have a lot of content for June 1st.
Sure.
At least enough to.
Yeah, with at least the one public hearing and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah,
There's
like
probably gonna be
appointments will
more
be
than
done.
one Yeah, we'll probably have at least a couple public hearings on June 1st.
Might have a couple, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that'll be all right then too.
We've done all our
Like water, is
presentations.
anything-
We've done all our presentations for the, we're on task for the work plans.
Okay.
Yeah,
The tax deed stuff, we can't do much. Our fee review is done. And it's just update on trails and some stuff, so.
yeah, and again, like I said, we're spending time on.
Yeah.
On that. So,
Yeah, if something crazy comes up, we should be good then, huh? Unless we can think of anything else.
If anything emerges, then we'll call, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Is that the consensus?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no use having the meeting, just say we're here.
Mhm. One quick update, Mark Austin resigned. He's left for Cass County. His last day was yesterday.
He resigned?
You pushed him too hard.
So now you're looking for a replacement.
Mhm. We talked to Paul, the DNR forester that's fortunately housed here. And the big piece is the forest administrator grant. We looked at contracting for services or hiring a forester, and it clearly makes sense to find a replacement for Mark. I talked to Chad, Vince about it.
Is he done already?
Yeah, he is gone. Yesterday we had a little couple of cake. He starts in Cass County, which is north central Minnesota. Walker's the county seat. Leech Lake. He's going from 17,000 acres to manage here in Polk County, 280,000 acres. There's 5 foresters underneath him. Good opportunity for Mark. Really good exit interview with him.
Well, he did us good.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a good update on his plans. Vince, you got anything for us? Oh, yeah. No updates on trails, DNR stuff, nothing, huh?
We've got a hearing on the 27th that you're aware of. That's back on the one that involves the DNR, not the cert one that we've been dealing with.
Okay.
So it's just oral argument. Again, I don't anticipate us knowing any more after that.
A
hearing.
zero answer, of course. Okay.
But we'll see. You never know.
All right. You're up.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
And there's the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Trip, Leah?
All right, yeah.
Lambo.
Well, there's no